Battle of Thermopylae. After the end of a war, the victorious side often looks back on defeat and creates a mythology around it, giving rise to the idea of a glorious defeat in which they fought to the bitter end. The Battle of Thermopylae is perhaps the most famous example. It is touted as an example of the military prowess of the Spartans when they fought back a much larger Persian army. Sparta was a major power in Greece before and after the war, so all the glory went to her. Although the Spartans and their king fought to the last man, they were not the only Greeks in the battle. In fact, I will even say more, they were only a small part of all the forces there. Even putting aside all the mythology built around holding back a much larger advancing army, people forget that the Greeks lost the Battle of Thermopylae. The Persian army was delayed, but still broke through and went to invade Greece. The cities that challenged the Persians were sacked and burned, including Athens. With the Persians destroying Greek cities, keeping them at Thermopylae seems less important now, doesn't it? The Greeks' goal was to prevent them from entering through the pass, and they failed. This meant that a huge army was running at their doorstep. What actually led to the defeat of the Persians was the Greek victory at Salamis, when most of the Persian fleet was destroyed. The size of the Persian invasion force meant that they needed land bridges to bring supplies to them, and without a fleet to protect them, they were vulnerable to attack by the Greeks. Because of this, and the threat of rivals seeking to usurp his home if he was absent for too long, the Persian king Xerxes was forced to abandon his invasion. After the end of the war, mythology was created around Thermopylae. During the war it did not matter, the defeat at the pass was a severe blow to the Greeks even with the losses suffered by the Persians. Despite the brutality of the Persian invasion, don't think it's a bunch of savages who cut, burned, and plundered wherever they went. The Achaemenid Empire, or First Persian Empire, which the Greeks fought against, was actually very kind to the people it conquered. He respected the religion of the conquered peoples. Its founder, Cyrus the Great, ended slavery in the peoples he conquered and is highly respected in the Old Testament for freeing the Jews from Babylon. There were still slaves in the empire, but their numbers were quite small compared to the total population. What could not be said about the Greeks? Slavery was much more common. In particular, Sparta had a very large number of slaves called helots, whose job it was to do all the work that kept the city alive. Compared to Spartans, Rome, the Achaemenid Empire was a stronghold of freedom. Sure, it was cruel to the Greeks in the war, but it didn't do what the Greeks did to each other, or that the Romans would do on a much larger scale centuries later.